No, it's a great question that I know the Congress and the states have struggled with. Fundamentally,
We never hear, we don't talk, you understand, all of us here, we don't hear about nuclear. We don't talk about nuclear, and it's been around. We've been running our whole military for, what, 50 plus years?
yeah.
But yet we don't even talk about it. It's all we're talking about.
Do I have a show for you today? This and much, much more. So stick around. And we're going to peer into the legislation and laws and what these people actually really know. You might be surprised. What we've brought for you today is the Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, and they're having a meeting. I believe this one is in April or March of this year, and they have a few people that they're speaking with, and they're trying to gauge of understanding of nuclear, basically everything nuclear. So with that, we'll take a look at this meeting that took place, and it's roughly about 15 minutes. So I would really like for everyone to watch it. I don't want to break it up and lose the context of everything that's talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and let it play, and hopefully you'll stick around just to see what happens here. I will place some things in the video, so keep an eye out and you'll get an understanding of who these people are. Alright,
guys. Mr. Lash, you and I had a good conversation. I really enjoyed it very much, and I was just fascinated by the mix, your portfolio mix for TVA. But also we know that nuclear is emissions-free and plants have baseload attributes and proven track records of complementing variable energies like renewables. I think you all do it all. But without new construction, the preservation of the existing nuclear fleet in the U.S., achieving sustainable energy system would be more challenging and expensive as more renewables come online. Every year in the U.S., nuclear-generated electricity prevents more than 506 million metric tons of carbon dioxide from entering our atmosphere. So if we're serious about using all of the above and doing it right and reducing our emissions, what action should Congress take to ensure that additional nuclear power plants do not suffer premature shutdowns? And you can give me the age of your fleet, how you've been able to maintain and operate at the capacity you have.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the question. I believe that incorporation of renewables is important. We're building 1,000 megawatts of solar a year, but nuclear makes that possible. That diverse fuel supply, that reliable resource, that high amount of carbon-free energy backstands the renewables that we're adding. Your question about the existing fleet, we have the best performing nuclear fleet in the country or in the world, and these plants are at the peak of their performance over the 50-year life of the industry.
What's the age of your plants, the average age of your nuclear?
Our plants are on average about 40 years old. We've extended the life.
How much life do you have left in them?
I believe these plants can operate to 100 years.
Unbelievable.
We are extending the lives currently from 40 to 60. We will move 60 to 80, and I believe ultimately we'll be able to extend past that. We can do that because we recognize the full value of these plants. One of the issues the fleet is facing.
Let me ask you, I hate to interrupt you, but why is the U.S. fleet then? Why are we decreasing? Why are we taking them offline?
Yeah, because in my view, in the organized markets, we don't recognize the full value that a nuclear plant brings. We have short-term focused energy markets and a very short-term 3-year focused capacity markets that doesn't recognize that nuclear plants can operate for decades at 98% reliability. As was mentioned earlier, they have a captive and secure.
You're saying the power generating companies themselves today, as we have them, different companies I have in my state, my area, and everybody, but they're just not basically utilizing fully their nuclear fleet, or?
That's correct. The markets don't recognize the full value. In order to correct that in the organized market, it's going to take action.
Because all we hear about is, well, as the fossil plants decrease, then we have to come on with renewables. Well, we know renewables don't have storage, so they're not base load. But then the only base load I have ever known to be totally base load was nuclear and coal. Both fuels are right there. Now gas has replaced an awful lot of the coal fleets, and it seems like it's been more competitive and cost-wise against nuclear, so it's replacing nuclear and coal. Gas is. And that's what we're seeing in the national market.
Gas is certainly an important resource, and I agree it is displacing coal. We should be aware, though, that gas, although it's valuable and it's important bridge fuel, it still emits carbon dioxide as an effluent. Nuclear does not. Nuclear adds tremendous economic impact to the communities where those exist. The nuclear unit, on average, probably produces about $1 billion a year.
And the cost of your nuclear, you're selling your nuclear power at what price?
Our nuclear power is the second lowest cost resource on the system. Our hydroelectric is the lowest. Nuclear is the second.
Lower than gas and lower than renewables?
It is. Gas has approached nuclear power prices for us, but not surpassed them. And
Wind and solar?
Both higher than nuclear
I'll be
power
darned.
costs.
Mr. Sell, you have anything on this since you're right in the throne of things?
No, it's a great question that I know the Congress and the states have struggled with. Fundamentally,
We never hear, we don't talk, you understand, all of us here, we don't hear about nuclear. We don't talk about nuclear, and it's been around. We've been running our whole military for, what, 50-plus years?
Yeah.
But yet we don't even talk about it. It's all we're talking about. And I like renewables. We have renewables in my state. Every state has renewables. But nuclear really does the job, 24/7.
Today, Junior?
The issue has become in the United States, as we have deregulated the markets and appropriately deregulated them, we have a market design failure in each of the individual states that regulate their
Talking about
electric
merchants,
market.
right? Merchant plants?
Well, it's not just merchant plants. It's a market design that does not value the number one attribute that nuclear power gives, which is 24/7 baseload emissions-free generation. That has a tremendous value, which nuclear operators are not compensated for in the marketplace. And as a result, you've seen good operating plants producing power at very low costs shut down, not in the TVA region, but in the Midwest region, when they were in a perfect condition to continue to operate. And it's really an issue that the Congress, I hope, can work with the states to resolve.
Thank you. My time's up. Thank you. I just thank all of you. I really believe we're missing a golden opportunity if we don't get back in action. And I think Mr. Lash and I had, like you said before, we had a good conversation and realizing how strong TVA is, but it's a whole different ballgame, the way it was created, who it is, how it operates. But they do it and do it so well. If it can work in that type of environment, it can work in the market environment too. But I'm understanding from what you all have told me is that starting with FERC, starting with regulatory, basically in Washington, demanding that we have that type of dependable, reliable, and affordable power, which is base load. And, you know, because we've had other things kind of freeze up, we've had other things kind of shut down, stop, and I think Texas is a wake-up call. I'm more concerned also, too, about the security. And I think nuclear can scare the daylights out of some people thinking of the catastrophe. I remember 3 Mile and how this happened. So they're saying, oh, boy, if we have a cyber attack, I'm gonna let all of you comment on it. If we have a cyber attack, then we're really in a problem there because they can really melt this thing down and cause catastrophic, okay? So, Mr. Sell, if you want to start on that, and then we'll go right down.
Thank you for the opportunity. The X-Energy plant is intrinsically safe. So what does that mean? What it means, Senator Manchin, Chairman Manchin, is that our plant cannot melt down. What happened at 3 Mile Island is physically impossible to happen in an XE100 plant. So is the plant safer? Yes, it's safer. But the more important thing is we do not have to build all of the safety-related systems that a typical light water reactor plant has to make. So we result in a much simpler plant that is more economic to build and more economic to operate. And that is why our plant can be built quicker, can be operated more cheaply, and therefore it's much more attractive from an economic standpoint than traditional large light water reactor plants.
Mr. Melby. Do you have any comments on this? This is my last just question.
Yeah,
I just need to know how we can make sure that nuclear is allowed to do the job we know it can do. And right now, we're not in that mindset, is what you're telling me. It's aspirational. Everybody wants to stop this, stop that, and let's do everything with renewables and this and that, and I understand. But we know it's not going to carry the load. It will not afford us 24/7, rain or shine. And to be the number one and be a superpower of the world and having the demand for power that we've taken for granted all these years, we've got to continue in that mindset, energy independence. So anything, just quickly a comment from all of you on that.
well, I'll just reiterate what you said about Texas was a wake-up call for all of us. We have operations down there, so we saw what happened firsthand. And, the resiliency, the 24/7 aspects of nuclear energy, the predictability of fuel cost. Gas is a great way to make electricity when gas is cheap, but we found out with $18,000 electricity bills that when the price of gas goes up, it hurts that form of energy. So nuclear can really be the complement in as you've all.
Did any nuclear go down in Texas? Does Texas?
We have 4 units in Texas. One did go down for a day, but was.
Well, I thought the water supply line froze up is what I understand.
So we were 75% up, but back to 100% after a day.
But if there had been weatherization precautions taken, that should have never gone down.
They're already taking them.
Gotcha. Mr. Lash.
Yes, Senator, I would just stress that the nuclear, non-light water and light water reactors are going to be critical to maintaining reliability, economic development advantage, and hitting our environmental objectives. And in answer your question, I would suggest 4 things. First, action needs to be taken to preserve the existing nuclear fleet and to address this value that's not recognized by the organized markets that needs to be recognized. If we don't preserve that fleet, we cannot maintain or develop a leadership position in the world on nuclear power.
What do you know about the fleet, sir, because you have a tremendous amount of experience in this operation. What do you know, and any of you all know, about the fleets that have been shut down or those that have been targeted to be shut down? Is there any other reason except market decisions that people are making right now that those should ever be shut down?
No, the primary reason here is market decisions, and it's a short-sighted view of the value of
Gotcha.
these plants, and
Gotcha.
we must address that.
We will get on that. We can get into that real quick.
The second step I suggest is you're already taking, and that's to recognize the role of nuclear at a policy level in addressing long-term climate change objectives. The third is to support the development and deployment of advanced reactors, light water and non-light water reactors, and I think the ARDP is a step to doing that. I think more is going to be necessary to create this advanced reactor industry for the U.S. and to make it an export for the U.S. around the world. The last is just to make sure that the regulatory and federal agencies that have to support extension of the existing fleet and licensing of new are properly focused and resourced to do just that.
Ms. Romer, do you have any comments you would like to share?
Yeah, I actually, Senator, I thought it was great that you started off with your cyber fear for nuclear, because when you look at any critical infrastructure, nuclear power has the most advanced cybersecurity protections, and you can't hack it, right? You can't cause any kind of harm at a nuclear power plant from a cyber attack, which is fantastic and just shows you how robust this technology is. When you look at advanced reactors, most of them
I hope you share that with our federal government and our Department of Defense, because we get hacked every second of every minute of every day.
Yeah, well, and they try to hack nuclear power plants. It just doesn't work. There's just too many layers of defense, and they're not attached to the grid. So any of the security systems aren't attached to the grid, which makes it really, really robust. But from a safety and security standpoint, with advanced reactors, a lot of them they're small, they're buried underground. You could do whole lots of bad things to them, and nothing's going to happen because they're underground, so they're not going to hurt anybody or harm anybody. But I think to your underlying point, right? This is an important discussion, and it needs to be based on facts, not fear. And so we need to have this conversation. The American public needs to be engaged and make decisions that they feel fits what they need, carbon-free, safe power. And we can do that. We just have to keep.
Well, here's what, before I go to Mr., I think I have one, Mr. Livek, if he would have anything. Livek?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, advanced nuclear is going to give you that reliability and resiliency that the current fleet has, to sustain multi-day tropical storms in Florida or the polar vortex in Illinois. Advanced nuclear is going to give you that kind of reliability, but it's also going to give you those safety and cost improvements that Mr. Sell and I have been describing.
Let me just say this, and then we'll go to Senator, to Marshall to finish up our meeting. Just a lack of knowledge, a lack of education to the people. I've always believed, because everyone, the life cycles of anything. So coal-fired plants, we knew what their life cycles were, and they start ending the life cycle. Then it was time to deploy them out and cycle them out. So we're thinking the same terms. Well, it's not. What you're telling me, that's not the case. If they're properly maintained, they can go on and on and on with some technology changes, I guess is what I'm understanding. So if you're going from a normal plant, probably in TVA or any of you all, when those first came online, maybe you had a 40 or 50-year life to them, but you found out that you can extend those lives very, very safely in this environment. We've got to now find out every nuclear plant that's on the chopping block right now and get to the CEOs of those companies and make them come here and tell us why they're taking offline something that should never have been taken offline, shouldn't even be considered to be taken offline, and why we can't build the rate in to make sure they're able to operate at that level. We can do that. That's our job here for the sake of our country. That's what we're looking for. So you all have been invaluable today. And with that, I want to thank each and every one of you, but I want to turn to my friend, Senator Marshall, for his final round.